Hey guys, today I'm trying out a pre-alpha game a dev sent me called Instruments of Destruction. Now this takes a lot of my favorite elements from Besiege and Scrap Mechanic and sort of mashes them together. Now I'm going to jump right into it and start with the first level. So another interesting thing about this game is actually the levels are islands, which I think is kind of cute. And here I just clicked on the easy level and I started out normal mode since it was basically the only thing I had unlocked. And after that I got my objectives, and you can see here the main goal is to destroy 80% of the buildings. And I have also some bonus objectives as well. I wasn't focusing on them in the moment though, I just wanted to figure out how to build stuff. And to start out, I was looking around at some of the pieces, and the thruster seemed interesting. Maybe not like a good thing to start with, but that's what I ended up choosing. And I was trying to place it on the cab, but it just wasn't working. And I wasn't sure what was going on, but eventually I realized you could only place them on the red nodes. Once I figured that out, I went to the framing pieces and I picked out the beam and started putting it on the back of the cab. And after I got 3 of those in place, I wanted to put some wheels on those, but again, it wasn't placing quite right. And it turned out what I was actually looking for was the 4-way cross beam. And you can see once I put that down, I have 2 nodes on the sides, and I put some tires in those as well, and I have half of a truck. So once I had those wheels in the back, I also wanted some in the front. So I deleted the framing piece in the front, and what I did is put down a 6-way attachment point. So I have 2 on the sides for the wheels, and I also have 1 on top, so I could put something to destroy the buildings. So starting out here, I have the wheels in place, and you can see there's some smoke coming out, but nothing's happening. And I was sort of wondering what was going on, and it turns out the wheels were actually locked into each other, and they weren't letting themselves turn. This is pretty interesting because in Scrap Mechanic, wheels actually can't rub against each other. So it's a bit of a reversal here. And to fix that problem, it's actually pretty simple. What I'm gonna do is delete the 2 wheels, delete the cross joint, and put another framing piece after the 3rd one, just to give me 1 more spacer, and you can see me putting everything back in place here. And now giving it a test, I'm able to drive forward and backward, and that actually seems to work very well. It's very responsive, but turning is a little bit grosser. So these wheels, since none of them are actually turning, they just turn in opposite directions to turn this, and that tank drive isn't really great. But man, is it a power. You can see it just climbing on the building there. It's really powerful. And just hitting these buildings, I am able to destroy them, but it doesn't really get me anywhere. So I need something to put on top of this to hopefully destroy the buildings. Now, as I was wandering around, you can actually see I'm on the coast here, and I drove into the water just to see what would happen, and this actually seems to completely disable the vehicle and stop the level. So I loaded back into the editor and gave it another shot here, and what I'm doing, you see, is putting down a bunch of framing pieces, and on top of that, I'm putting down a 6-way attachment point, and I'm putting cannons on them. Now, I wasn't sure what cannons were going to do. If they're anything like Besiege, you can shoot them once, and that's it. But actually, in this case, you can see I shot them once, and I shot them again, and it worked. So there also seems to be no limit on how fast you can shoot these, which is kind of interesting. So I sort of just drove up to a good point, got myself positioned on the fence, and started shooting at some of the buildings, and man, is it really powerful. I sort of just do whatever I want with this, and you can see the shrapnel just going everywhere. And it did quite a bit of destruction, but there is a problem. Anything below the cannons really wasn't getting destroyed at all. And I ran into the water as well with this because I wasn't being very careful, so I had to revise it anyway, and I decided to lower everything down. But I noticed kind of a quirk of the game, not sure if it's just a pre-alpha thing or if I just missed something, but it seems like you can't move stuff down. So I had to rebuild it further down, and you can see I'm using charge launchers instead of cannons this time, just to see what the difference is. I was thinking it's going to be some sort of plasma gun, but it seemed to be some sort of grenade launcher thing, which is pretty cool. If I spam these grenades everywhere, you can see it does quite a bit of damage and flips my thing over. Now, thankfully, I'm able to flip it back over just by shooting a bunch more and then having them explode behind me. So this seems to be pretty effective, and if I just drive wherever I want, I can sort of just spam this and do any amount of destruction. Now, I also seem to take no damage from these, which is pretty cool. So I'm thinking I could use these to build some sort of, I don't know, Orion drive or something. Not sure, but I beat that level. I actually got the bonus requirements as well. And after I did that, I loaded up to the next level here, and this one I was just sort of messing around with. I wanted to try using the same exact robot, but I did need to have 2 more wheels on it to get one of the bonus objectives. So I sort of cheesed it by putting 1 in the back and 1 on top. But once I got those in place, it's literally the same thing. I just drove right into the front entrance here and started spamming the grenades. Now, this seemed to be particularly effective here because the walls kind of contained all of the grenades inside of them and then just blew everything up at once. So I beat this level in like 20 seconds flat and just started spamming grenades for fun to see what would happen. I just completely decimated every trace of a building here. You can see it's literally just rubble left. One thing I really like about this game is you can see all the rubble it's created from the buildings. It's sort of like Teardown, where you just have all these unique pieces that break apart. So load up to the next level here, and this one's different than the first 2. I'm not trying to destroy anything. I'm actually just trying to reach a marker while not destroying any of the ruins. So I deleted the robot I had, and I wanted to start over with something a little more nimble so that I'm able to get through some stuff. So I put down 2 steering wheels in the front, and these should allow me to actually steer in a normal way and not have a weird tank drive. And hopefully I'll be able to kind of get through some narrow openings, because I was thinking that might be here. So I put down some powered wheels in the back, and you see I'm putting down a lot of these weird cubes, and these are just for weight, because one of the extra requirements is to have something weigh 15,000 kilograms. So I just put that in place here, and you can see I actually tip over, because I ended up moving the wheels in a dumb way. So I tried it again, and actually there's another problem. problem. I'm kind of stuck on the back here, as you can see, and I have no way of getting up since the front wheels aren't powered. So I moved the wheels further back and also made them bigger. And once I did this, you can see I'm able to get off the back and start moving forward, but I actually get caught in the lip here. And this is another problem. I accidentally didn't gun it, and I sort of went in a really bad position, and it's caused me to get stuck. But thankfully, after enough time, I managed to dislodge myself and start moving forward. But now another problem emerged too. This thing was so tall, I couldn't slip under this power line here, and my only way to get through it was just to ram it. Now, I was hoping this wouldn't count against my score at all, and it didn't seem to, at least, or if it did, it was such a small amount it didn't matter. And with that done, I climbed up a couple of these slopes and realized there's a problem. So the second one here, my cab is getting stuck on it, and I can't quite get over it. I tried ramming it a couple times, coming at it from different angles, but this didn't help. So I put down some bigger steering wheels in the front, and finally here I managed to get over that, and I had to be really careful on this turn, because if I went it too fast, I thought I was going to flip right over. He was pretty top heavy and fairly unstable, but thankfully I managed to get over there, and now I just had to get through this gate. Now getting through these buildings is also kind of tricky, and I ended up hitting them quite a bit while attempting to, but eventually here I ended up getting it, but I couldn't get through the gate because it was too tall and too wide. So I had to destroy part of the ruins. Thankfully though, I have up to 20% ruin destruction that's allotted, and I only destroyed 8%. But this next part did not look good because it looked like it was going to be worse than the first part. So after tapping a couple of the pillars and getting a little bit more ruin destruction, I had one last gate to get through, and there's no way of sneaking through it, so I had to ram it and hope for the best. Thankfully there, you can see I managed to get through it, and I only had 13% ruin destruction. Now I could have done way better if I had put all my mass further towards the center and also made it shorter, and also made it narrower, but I didn't do any of that. So I'm moving into the next level here. I destroy 4 buildings, and I can't use anything from the category activated. So activated has stuff like the cannons and the launchers, so to be pretty careful with what I do. So again, I restart and I put down a splitter, really for no reason other than I wanted to try it. And on that splitter, I put down a bunch of my 4-way beams pieces. And once I do that, you can see I'm putting down some wheels in the front, and I put down some wheels in the back as well. Now the wheels in the back are much bigger than the ones in the front, and I was gonna put big wheels in the front, but there's 2 reasons I didn't. The first one is that I wanted to make it kind of shorter, and I couldn't do that if the 2 wheels were big because they'd lock into each other like before. And also there is no big steering wheel. That's the biggest steering wheel you can get, so unfortunately it's what I'm stuck with. Now here you can see what I'm doing is putting down a big spinning thing. So my idea is, since I can't use anything from the category activated, I can still use thrusters, since those are actually in the category flight. So if I have them spin around this big arm, I should be able to use blades, which are on the end of this big spinning arm, to hopefully destroy the buildings. So I put that in place here, and you see when I turn the thrusters on, it starts spinning, and it seems to actually look pretty good, but it's kind of stupid the way it's so squatted. So destroy the wheels in the back, and what I do is move them 1 step backward, put down 2 big wheels in the front, and now I have something I can actually move around. Again, it's not very nimble anymore, it's a lot more difficult to steer. I was hoping I'd be able to get over the bridges easily enough though, and I approach this first building here. It actually isn't one of the buildings I need to destroy, but there's a problem. It's too tall. I ended up needing to move down this arm in order to get it to hit the buildings. So I destroyed 2 of the pieces, but again, there's either no move tool or I just straight up couldn't find it. So I had to move the whole thing down manually. And once I did that, what I also did is put down blades on the end of this facing down instead of out. This allows me to reach almost all the way to the ground when I'm spinning. And you can see there, I got a ton of destruction on the building, but well, I fell into the water because I wasn't being very careful. So what I do is move over to the second bridge, go across it, and once I do that, I sort of just move around, try to get myself in position to the first building, start getting the blades going, and you can see here once I hit the building, stuff starts flying around. Now, it wasn't actually as impressive as I thought it was going to be. The blade seems to get stopped pretty easily, and I wasn't really in love with that, so I replaced the blades on the end with wrecking balls. Now, the wrecking balls, I figured were probably just going to be really heavy, so ideally that would just work out well for me. So I went across again to the first building. I made sure to spin up the wrecking balls to full speed before I hit the building. I think I did that before, but I'm not actually certain. And now when I hit the building, you can see my robot goes launching, but also the building just absolutely gets leveled. For some reason, these wrecking balls seem to do way more damage. You can see stuff falling into the ocean on both sides. It's absolutely crazy. And with just that, I'm done. Now, the rest of the buildings are actually on the right here on this other island, and I have no way of getting over there. So I need some way to be able to get over that river. And for that, I was going to use some tank tread and hopefully just be able to ride straight over it and, well, not fall in. So I put down 2 of those tank treads, and once I had that in place here, I'm testing it out, but they seem to be glitching into each other and kind of just having a bad time. So I decided to delete those, and what I do instead is keep the treads in the front, put the wheels in the back, and when I try to get over, you can see it's just not successful at all. I fall straight into the water. So hopefully find another way to get over there. What I do is put down some thrusters facing straight down, 2 facing straight back, and then I have 1 facing to the right. I actually don't use the 1 facing to the right at all, but I do use the other 2. So I'm trying to lift myself up with the thrusters facing down and then push myself forward with the ones that are facing back. And this actually is moderately successful. You can see here I'm able to get over and reach the other island, but it just gets stuck there and then I fall into the water. So to hopefully do a little bit better than that, I just tried again with a little bit of a better aim, but I ended up moving over to the left too much and I fell right into the water. So I tuned the strength of the thrust just a little bit, and finally here you can see I'm able to get over, and I have to very carefully make sure I move myself to not fall into the water. This is actually pretty tricky, and after I hit the building, I almost fell right back in. But thankfully I didn't, and I'm able to destroy the other two buildings using the wrecking ball setup. And once I do that, you can see I end up getting level completion. So with that done, I just wanted to mess around a bit and see what would happen. So I launched the back thrusters and also the ones facing down, and I was kind of expecting to fall straight into the water, but instead I managed to keep a bit of flight here. Now again, this was pretty surprising, and that actually encouraged me to start making some sort of plane, but there is no real aero stuff in the game yet, because, you know, pre-alpha. So that stuff's going to be coming soon, but it's about the closest I can get for now. So with that level done, loaded up the next one, and you can see here, basically the objectives are to do 60% building destruction, and there's also some mines to run over. Now, I just wanted to try using my same robot again, because if it works, why not? But it kind of wasn't working. Basically, the thruster in the back was making this tip over a lot, and I wasn't really loving that. So instead, what I did is put down the wheels again, but I put the front two wheels out further to hopefully keep myself a bit more stable. And once I did this, you can see it looks a little goofy, but it actually does work, and I'm still able to get over the bridges too. Just barely though. If I made it any wider, I don't think I'd be able to really do that. But thankfully there I'm able to do it, and I'm also able to launch the rockets in the back to get myself where I want to go a bit faster. And now destroy the building, same thing I do before, launch the wrecking balls, and start running into it. Now, the building's actually not that tall like the other ones were, so it's a little bit more tricky, but I get most of it destroyed and I run over the rest. I couldn't destroy the wrecking ball. And now for the second building, basically the same thing, just run into it with the wrecking ball, destroy most of it, get like 37% destruction off those two buildings, and move over to the next island. Now again, I have to be very careful crossing this bridge, so if I go over it the wrong way, I'm either going to fall over the side or I'll break it and then fall right into the river. But I get it there, and now looking at these buildings, I start up my wrecking ball and run right into them. Now the wrecking ball wasn't very useful here at all because it was very short, so I ended up running into the building. I actually ran over a mine, if you saw there. And now going over to the last building here, the wrecking ball actually does work out pretty well because it's just tall enough, and I'm able to destroy most of it there. So after just running over a few of the fences, eventually here you can see I got the completion, and I ran over the last of the mines to get my 10 mine completion, and I got all the bonus objectives. So guys, thanks for watching. If you want to know how to play this, there's gonna be a demo coming out in October, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I may or may not be playing the demo. Let me know down in the comments if you want to see that. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And otherwise, until next time.